I'd like to take you back in time. We're across the ditch in New Zealand, and I'm with a company that has taken me on tour throughout both the North and the South Island, delivering into their company's annual event. I was a closing keynote speaker in 5 locations. So the last venue was in Dunedin, and I arrived about 2:30 p.m. and the organisers met me pretty much as I came in the door of the hotel. The look on their faces this time, though, was a little bit grim, and I was a bit perturbed. They pulled me aside into a private room and shared what was going on. What they told me was that one of their members the previous night had committed suicide. He had hung himself. His wife came home in the evening, opened the sliding garage door, and there he was. Everyone was just flabbergasted, perplexed, grief-stricken. Nobody had any idea that anything even remotely like this was likely to be happening for this man. Beautiful wife, couple of children, beautiful house, matching cars, batch boat, very successful man. And when they'd finished sharing the story, that I said, because I'm on last and I meant to be funny, and it worked really well on the 4 previous occasions, but well, they shared what the day had been like. All of the participants, morning tea and lunch, very quiet. All you could hear was the rattle of cutlery and china. Nobody talking much at all. Other speakers and presenters had come and gone. And so here we were. And I said to them, so how would you like to deal with this? And they said, well, we were kind of hoping you'd have an idea. And I said, well, I do actually. I said, when we go in, I want you to tell me again in front of the audience exactly what you've said to me now. That will then give me permission to speak into what's happening in the room, and I'm not sure how I'm going to manage it, but I'll handle it from there. And so in we went, and she did just that, recounted to me in front of the audience what had been happening and how the day had been. And I took a moment then and asked them if I might open with a moment of prayer. And while I'm not especially religious, I just for a minute or two spoke into how I thought people might be feeling in the room, and blessed his wife and remaining family. And at the end of that time, I acknowledged how it must have been difficult during the day to be listening to presenters, trying to pay attention, but having this on their minds. I expanded a little on my presentation and the intention of it, which was to be very amusing. And I said, with your permission, I want to deliver that same presentation. And there was nods, slow little nods throughout the room. Everyone was in agreement. And so I began. And it wasn't too many minutes in, maybe 8 or 10 minutes in, and one man said, oh, Pat, please stop. He said, something struck me. And he reached into his pocket and he pulled out his business cards. And he said, Pat, there's 100 of us in the room today, and all of ourselves call ourselves property valuers. He said, and it just struck me, I wonder if we called ourselves by another name, whether we might have noticed. any shifts, changes, anything about our colleague. And if we missed it because we were over here valuing property and not people. So there were tears brimming in some of the people in the room, and I continued on. I had, for that session, made a mask actually moulded from a plaster of Paris of my own face and decorated it. And it was really timely, and I shared with them a poem about the mask that people wear. And it ends with, "Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by me. Don't be fooled by the mask that I wear." So I got a standing ovation at the end of that presentation. It wasn't that funny, but I told pretty much the same keynote, but it landed in a totally different way. I actually got a 2-page letter from the organisers thanking me for the way in which I'd handled that, how I really helped bring the day to a close, bring some healing into the room, talk about that which they had found so difficult. They didn't know how to broach the topic. How do we, other than saying sorry, how do we step into this and bring some language to it? So why am I mentioning this today? It's been brought to my attention yet again this week. New Zealand has and has had for many years the highest incidence of youth suicide in the world. Quite a few years ago, Professor Martin Seligman said in one of his presentations over there, I was present to that, he said, "It's interesting that a country of such profound beauty and relative wealth has so many people who look out and don't see hope." We're approaching RUOK Day, and it's a wonderful reminder for the place we can all occupy in being more mindful of those around us. But for me, it's a bigger thing. It's an investment, not just for one day, but for how we show up each day. And I just am so compelled to close with this. There are a growing group of people who are working hard to unravel what's behind all this. And if we don't, we risk losing sight of our souls. Thanks.